What if I told you that almost everything you believe about yourself is a lie? Not because you're stupid, not because you've been deceived, but because the person you call me might be nothing more than a mental program running in the background. Think about it. How many times have you said things like, "I'm just not confident. I'm bad at talking to people. I've always been this way. I can't change." Most people hear these statements and assume they're facts. But they're not facts. They're stories. Stories repeated so many times that they start feeling like reality. And that's where the trap begins. Because the moment you believe a story about yourself, your brain starts working overtime to prove it true. If you believe you're awkward, you'll notice every awkward moment. If you believe you're unlucky, you'll remember every failure. If you believe you're weak, you'll find evidence everywhere. Your mind becomes less interested in discovering truth and more interested in protecting identity. And that's exactly why millions of people spend their entire lives trapped inside personalities they never consciously chose. They think they're discovering themselves. In reality, they're repeating themselves. The scary part? Most people will die without ever realizing that the person they've been defending for decades was never really them at all. Tonight, you're going to learn something that could completely change the way you see yourself. You're going to discover why confidence isn't a personality trait, why discipline isn't genetic, why charisma isn't reserved for a lucky few, and most importantly, why becoming a completely different person may be easier than you've been led to believe. Because once you understand how identity actually works, you stop trying to improve the old version of yourself and start replacing it. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The biggest lie you were ever taught. From the moment you entered this world, people started describing who you were. Before you had any understanding of yourself, someone else was already creating the script. Maybe they called you quiet. Maybe they called you shy. Maybe they called you smart. Maybe they called you difficult. Maybe they called you average. At first, these words meant nothing. You were just a child. But over time, something strange happened. You started accepting those descriptions. Then you started acting them out. Then you started defending them. Eventually, they became part of your identity. The problem is that identities are incredibly sticky. Once your brain accepts a label, it begins filtering reality through it. Imagine two people walking into the same room. One believes they're confident. The other believes they're socially awkward. Both experience the exact same conversation. The confident person notices moments that support confidence. The awkward person notices moments that support insecurity. The event is identical. The interpretation is different. And interpretation becomes reality. This is why two people can live through similar experiences and emerge with completely different beliefs about themselves. It's not the event. It's the story attached to it. Most people never question that story. They simply inherit it, then spend the rest of their lives living inside it. That's why change feels so difficult. You're not fighting reality. You're fighting repetition. The version of yourself you know today is simply the version you've practiced the most. Nothing more. Nothing less. Chapter 2. Your brain cares more about familiarity than success. Here's something most people never realize. Your brain's primary goal isn't happiness. It isn't success. It isn't confidence. It's survival. And from your brain's perspective, familiarity equals survival. Think about that. Even if your current identity is making you miserable, your brain still prefers it. Why? Because it's predictable. Predictability feels safe. Imagine you've spent years telling yourself you're not confident. Every decision, every habit, every behavior reinforces that belief. Now imagine trying to suddenly become confident. Your brain immediately resists. Not because confidence is wrong, because confidence is unfamiliar. And unfamiliarity feels dangerous. This explains why people sabotage themselves, why they quit when progress starts appearing, why they return to toxic relationships, why they abandon goals right before success. They're not choosing failure. They're choosing familiarity. The old identity keeps pulling them back. Like gravity, most people mistake this resistance for proof they can't change. But the resistance is actually proof that change is happening. Whenever your identity feels threatened, your brain sounds an alarm. Not because you're moving in the wrong direction, because you're moving into unknown territory. And unknown territory terrifies the mind. This is why transformation feels uncomfortable. Not because it's impossible, because it's unfamiliar. The discomfort isn't a stop sign. It's evidence you're leaving the old version behind. Chapter 3. The hidden prison of self-definition. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no memory of who you were. No labels, no history, no reputation, No beliefs about what you're good at. No beliefs about what you're bad at. What would stop you from becoming anyone? Think carefully. Most limitations only exist because you've repeated them long enough. People say, I'm not leadership material. I'm not attractive. I'm not disciplined. I'm not ambitious. But who decided that? Where did that belief come from? And more importantly, why are you still carrying it? The truth is that most self-definitions are outdated. They're conclusions made years ago, sometimes decades ago. Maybe you failed once and created a permanent identity around a temporary event. Maybe you got rejected and convinced yourself you weren't worthy. Maybe someone criticized you and you accepted their opinion as your reality. The tragedy isn't that these things happened. The tragedy is that you never updated the story. Imagine using a map from 10 years ago to navigate a modern city. You'd constantly get lost. That's exactly what most people are doing psychologically. They're navigating today's opportunities using yesterday's identity, and then wondering why life feels restricted. The prison isn't physical. It's conceptual. It's built from beliefs. And every belief acts like a wall. The good news? Anything built by repetition can be dismantled by repetition. Chapter 4. Why confidence isn't a trait. Let's destroy one of the biggest myths on the internet. Confidence is not something you're born with. Confidence is not reserved for special people. Confidence is not genetic. Confidence is evidence. That's it. Think about driving. The first time you sat behind a wheel, you probably felt nervous, uncertain, overwhelmed. Now imagine driving after years of experience. The fear decreases. The confidence increases. Why? Because confidence is accumulated proof. You repeatedly survived the experience. Your brain adapted. The same thing happens with social confidence, business confidence, leadership confidence, dating confidence, public speaking confidence. Nobody starts with certainty. They build it through evidence. The problem is that most people wait to feel confident before they act. And because they never act, they never gather evidence. And because they never gather evidence, they never become confident. It's a vicious cycle. The successful person flips the equation. They act first. Confidence comes later. They speak before they feel ready. They take action before certainty arrives. They move before fear disappears. And eventually their brain catches up. This is one of the most powerful secrets you'll ever learn. You do not need confidence to act. You need action to create confidence. The moment you understand this, everything changes. Because now confidence is no longer something you wait for. It's something you generate. Chapter 5. The moment your old identity starts dying. Every major transformation begins with a death. Not a physical death, a psychological one. The death of the version of yourself that's been controlling your life. This is where most people stop. Because identity death feels terrifying. When you stop saying, I'm shy, I'm lazy, I'm unlucky, I'm awkward, you suddenly lose your excuse. And excuses provide comfort. Without them, responsibility appears. Without them, possibility appears. Without them, change becomes real. And real change is frightening. Because now failure isn't guaranteed. Success becomes possible. And possibility creates pressure. That's why so many people cling to limitations. Limitations remove responsibility. But the moment you release them, you become dangerous. Dangerous to old habits. Dangerous to old fears. Dangerous to old patterns. The person you were yesterday begins losing power. And a new version starts taking shape. One decision at a time. One action at a time. One belief at a time. The question is no longer, who have I been? The question becomes, who am I choosing to become? And that single shift changes everything. Chapter 6. The 24-hour identity reset. Most people believe change takes years. Years of therapy. Years of self-improvement. Years of struggle. And while mastery certainly takes time, identity shifts often happen much faster than people realize. Think about the moments that completely changed your life. A breakup, a betrayal, a major achievement, a life-threatening event, a single conversation. Sometimes one moment changes a person forever. Why? Because identity can change instantly. Behavior simply takes time to catch up. The problem is that most people are waiting for transformation to happen naturally. They wait for motivation. They wait for confidence. They wait for the perfect moment. But identity doesn't change through waiting. Identity changes through decision. The first step of an identity reset is brutally simple. Stop introducing yourself through your past. Most people begin every day by reminding themselves who they've been. I'm the anxious one. I'm the unlucky one. I'm the person who never succeeds. I'm the person who struggles. Then they wonder why nothing changes. Because every morning they're reinstalling the same operating system. Imagine deleting an old program from your computer, then reinstalling it every day. Nothing changes. The same thing happens psychologically. The old identity survives because you keep feeding it. The moment you stop repeating it, its power begins to weaken. And that's where the reset starts. Chapter 7. Cognitive Identity Override. Here's something fascinating about the human brain. It doesn't know the difference between a rehearsed identity and a natural identity. If a behavior is repeated enough times, the brain eventually accepts it as normal. Think about actors. Some actors spend months preparing for a role. They change how they walk, how they talk, how they think, how they react. Eventually, the character begins feeling real. Why? Because repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity creates identity. Now imagine using the same process intentionally. Instead of rehearsing a movie character, you rehearse your future self. Ask yourself, how would the strongest version of me walk? How would they speak? How would they respond to criticism? How would they spend their mornings? How would they handle setbacks? How would they treat themselves? Most people never ask these questions. They keep acting like the old version and hope for different results. But your actions are constantly voting for your identity. Every habit casts a vote. Every decision casts a vote. Every response casts a vote. The question is simple. Which identity are your actions supporting? The old one or the new one? Because eventually the votes add up. And whichever identity receives the most votes wins. Chapter 8. Installing a new personality. This is where transformation becomes practical. People often ask, how do I become more confident? How do I become disciplined? How do I become charismatic? The answer is surprisingly simple. Stop focusing on traits. Focus on standards. Traits are outcomes. Standards are causes. Confident people have standards. Disciplined people have standards. Successful people have standards. The average person wakes up and asks, what do I feel like doing today? The transformed person asks, what does my standard require? Feelings become irrelevant. Standards become dominant. Imagine two people waking up early. One does it because they're motivated. The other does it because that's who they've decided to be. Who lasts longer? The second person, because motivation fluctuates. Identity endures. This is why the strongest transformations occur when standards replace emotions. Instead of saying, I want to exercise, you say, I am someone who trains. Instead of saying, I hope I become confident, you say, I am someone who acts despite fear. The language changes. Then the actions change. Then the results change. And eventually the identity becomes real. Chapter 9. The Environmental Trap. Here's a truth most people don't want to hear. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. You can have the best intentions in the world. But if your surroundings constantly reinforce the old version of you, change becomes much harder. Think about the people around you. Do they encourage growth? Or do they reinforce limitation? Do they challenge you? Or keep you comfortable? Many people attempt transformation while remaining immersed in environments designed for stagnation. Then they wonder why progress feels impossible. Imagine trying to stay healthy while living inside a candy store. Imagine trying to focus while surrounded by distractions. Imagine trying to become ambitious while spending every day with people who mock ambition. Environment matters more than most people realize. That's why successful individuals are extremely selective about what they consume. Not just food, information, conversations, media, relationships. Everything entering the mind influences identity, and identity influences behavior. If you want a new identity, create a new environment, because your surroundings are constantly programming you, whether you notice it or not. Chapter 10. The Dangerous Side of Transformation. Most videos about self-improvement ignore this part. Transformation has consequences. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some people benefited from the old version of you, the insecure version, the passive version, the people-pleasing version, the predictable version. When you change, those dynamics change too. And that makes some people uncomfortable. You may notice resistance, criticism, doubt, mockery, not because you're doing something wrong, because growth disrupts expectations. People become attached to the version of you they understand. When you evolve beyond that version, confusion appears. Sometimes resentment appears. This is normal. The mistake is taking it personally. Transformation isn't a group project. It's an individual decision. Not everyone will come with you, and that's okay. Your responsibility isn't to remain small so others feel comfortable. Your responsibility is to become who you're capable of becoming, even if it disappoints people who preferred the old version. Chapter 11. The Mirror Test. Here's a challenge. Stand in front of a mirror, not for 10 seconds, not for 30 seconds, for 5 full minutes, and ask yourself one question. If nobody knew who I was, who would I choose to become? No history, no labels, no reputation, no limitations. Who would you choose? Most people have never seriously considered this. They've spent so much time protecting an identity that they forgot they could create one. But creation begins with honesty. You must identify which beliefs no longer serve you, which habits no longer serve you, which stories no longer serve you. Then you must decide to stop carrying them. Not tomorrow, not next year, now. Because the longer you wait, the stronger they become. And the stronger they become, the harder they are to remove. Chapter 12. The Final Decision. At this point, you know the truth. You know that identity is not fixed. You know confidence is built. You know discipline is learned. You know personality can evolve. You know your current self is largely the result of repetition. The question isn't whether change is possible. The question is whether you're willing to participate in it. Because information changes nothing. Action changes everything. Millions of people will watch videos like this. Few will apply them. Most will feel inspired for an hour, then return to the same habits, the same routines, the same thinking, the same identity. But a small percentage will do something different. They'll make a decision, a real decision, not an emotional one, a behavioral one. And that's where transformation begins. Right now, there are 2 versions of you. The version created by your past, and the version created by your potential. One is familiar, one is unknown, one is comfortable, one is powerful, one is built from repetition, one is built from possibility. The battle between them happens every single day. Every choice, every habit, every action, every excuse, every decision. The person you become isn't determined by what you want. It's determined by what you repeatedly do. Because identity is not discovered. Identity is constructed. And every day you're either building the old version or building the new one. The choice has always been yours. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for permission to change. Permission from family, permission from friends, permission from society, permission from fear. But permission is never coming. You don't need permission. You need a decision. A decision to stop introducing yourself through limitations. A decision to stop worshiping old stories. A decision to stop carrying beliefs that no longer belong to you. The future version of you already exists. Not somewhere far away. Not years from now. Inside the choices you're avoiding today. The moment you start acting like that person, the transformation begins. And one day, you'll look back at the version of yourself reading these words right now and realize something incredible. The person you thought you were was only the beginning. The old identity survives through repetition. The new identity is built through action. Choose wisely.